Welcome to the family with
Andy Barnard.
And Seven Pippin.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Doug Sprinthal will join us in a couple of minutes, as a matter of fact. Mr. Gelfand, did you ever know Moon? He used to work the afternoon show, KS95.
Yeah, he came in one day and I had a chance to meet him. Seemed like a really nice guy.
Well, he's a great guy. I mean, he, really, really good friend. Hutch called in this morning on the morning show. Hutch, of course, took his spot over at KS95, and just a very, very nice man. No question about that. It's always tough to hear because, God, you know. Well, I'll hold off for when Doug calls in to see what the situation is. So, Mike, how you doing?
Pretty good. I've been. I can't help myself. I've been listening to and watching all the pundits in the last 48 hours.
About? Because
it was the all-important primary sort of election in New Hampshire, except for the fact that Democrats were not technically on the ballot.
Right.
And what I discovered is nothing happened.
What do you mean nothing happened?
I mean, nothing of consequence happened. It's like...
No.
You know, it's like the old Delamitri song, "Nothing Ever Happens." That's the way it is in politics these days. Nothing. Yeah,
it's just how it is. No, what something actually did happen for me. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know him really well, but I do know Dean Phillips and Gelfand, and all the years that I've known you. You're probably not going to believe I'm going to say this, but I like his approach. I really like the way. I mean, he's kind of jumped in at the last minute. I understand. Dean Phillips did.
Yeah.
I reached out to Dean and asked him to. I sent him a message to be on the show. I haven't heard back from his people yet, but he's rather busy being on national television right now.
Yeah.
But Mike, am I wrong in that? Is Dean Phillips, to me, he sounds like my mother's Democratic Party.
Well, your mother's Democratic Party, as I understand it, was really, the Democrats, and when she was, especially when she was probably forming her political ideas, you know, that was when the New Deal coalition was at its peak. So, but the party has kind of gone away from the New Deal coalition and gone more centrist. So, but Dean is, he's obviously a liberal, but you just never know which way he's going to go on that.
Which I like.
I'd say you're probably right in the sense that he is more of a centrist. The problem he has is if he was the only guy running, if he could actually get the nomination, I mean, I think that'd be great. But about all he can do now is, and the reason he's getting a lot of money now from Republicans is that, you know, he is seen as the spoiler, the guy who's gonna tip the odds, the election in favor of Trump.
I see. See, and that's not my position at all.
No, I know. I get that. Yeah.
Man, not at all. I just like what he has to say. I like his approach. I am sick to death of the far right and the far left being so negative and hateful, saying these hurtful, horrible things about one another. Yeah. I mean, what are we all, in 6th grade, for Christ's sake?
You remember when it used to be that the politicians on all sides would go out of their way to talk about what a great country this is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And now, you know, you're not always hearing that these days.
Is anybody but Dean Phillips talking about that kind of thing?
I don't know that much about what Dean is saying, but I know what his record is, and I haven't. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good guy. I'm personally very upset at him though.
And we do have Doug on the phone whenever you guys are ready.
Okay. I'll just wrap it up and say I'm pissed off at Dean. I'm gonna tell him if I have a chance because he closed his coffee shop in Linden Hills.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Well, I understand why you'd be pissed off at him then.
And that was the coffee I can take or leave. But the fact is, it was the only place anywhere near me, and it's not that close to me because, you know, Linden Hills is not that close to me, but it was the closest place I could go to get what was essentially Dairy Queen ice cream.
Oh, love it. No
and then,
question
you know, he
about
had a happy hour, which I thought was very clever.
Right.
It was like between 3 and 5 or something. And you could get the soft serve half price, which meant it was only a little more expensive than Dairy Queen. So I'm upset with him, and I'm just going to have to unload all of my wrath on him.
What do you think you're going to do if I do end up coming back your way? Because I am sick to death of the hateful bullshit on both sides of the aisle on this one.
Yeah.
And if somebody like Dean Phillips is going to try to move centrist, I'm right there with you. I got to be honest with you. I am sick to death of these money-grubbing pukes that are elected all the time now.
And I suppose it's conceivable that for whatever reason, it could be any number of reasons. Well, both candidates might not wind up running. You just don't know at this point.
Yeah, you never know.
Especially because they're elderly, and they have their issues. And if that was the case, I would have no problem supporting Dean Phillips.
There you go. You and I agree on something politically for the first time in about 25 years.
Yeah, it was Well, I mean, we all are influenced by our environment as well as our. It's just the way it is. And so I think that you set all that stuff aside. And a guy like Dean Phillips comes in, yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, we're going to see what the situation. Look, I have friends that are Democrats, friends that are Republicans. I have no extremist friends at all. I will not put up. Well, I suppose there are a couple of people on both sides that are extremists, one to the left and one to the right, but in general, not that way. I just would like to, why don't we just be a country again with two different opinions and respect each other's opinion instead of going off the deep end and calling for their murders?
Yeah, well, that's a little excessive, yeah. Or
just a little.
Or you're gonna throw them in jail once you're elected, which is really a banana republic thing. But the fact is, Democrats these days are, you may not agree with their core values, but they are pragmatists. They have learned to be pragmatists.
You think so?
Oh yeah, that was what the election was all about. That's why so many people came out to vote, was because that attitude that people had in 2016, that especially younger people, but it was others too. If the candidate doesn't believe everything I believe in, I'm not voting for him. Mm-hmm. No, that wasn't the case in 2020. And a lot of people like my youngest son, 2016. Oh, I'm for Bernie. If Bernie's not running, I'm not voting. Well, that attitude changed in 2020.
Yeah, why?
Why? Because I think that there was a certain amount of coalescing around the idea that people just didn't want the incumbent to win again.
I understand that, but they also chose one of the worst human beings ever born to take his place.
What do you mean?
He's a massive scam. Now, you can't argue.
Well, Biden was never, for one, I mean, regardless of what you think about that, he certainly was never a hardcore leftist.
No, he's interested in money. That's what he would. Oh, I would say the same thing about Trump. They're both interested in money. That's what they are interested in.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. All right, we need to. Okay, one warning up front. I'm going to tell you flat out. Doug's on the phone, is he not?
I am, sir.
I want you to. Hutch already did this to me on the morning show. That if you make me cry like he did, I'm never talking to you again.
Well, yeah, it's tough. Well, those that might not have heard, our good friend Larry Moon Thompson passed away yesterday. And Dan Seaman posted he was actually 65. I didn't know I thought he was 60. But anyway, it's tough. We became friends, probably 7 or 8 years ago. Most of our advertising was done on the morning show, but I also advertised for, I think, the Honda store on KS95. Mm-hmm. And they were only minute-long commercials, so we couldn't do the whole KQ stuff, even though it worked really well.
Yes.
One day I said, hey, rather than me write this out, why don't we ad-lib something? And Moon looked at me and goes, like you and Tom do? And I said, yeah, but we got to do it for a minute, so you got to watch the clock. He goes, okay, that's great. And in the first couple ones, he was really kind of uptight. And I finally said, Moon, it doesn't care. I don't care if we don't sell a car today. I just want people to lean in. And he finally got it. And he would do the weirdest stuff. He'd go, okay, what are we talking about today? And I said, well, sign and drive leases at the Honda store. And so he'd think for a minute and he'd roll his eyes and he'd go, okay, roll the tape. And he'd open with, you know what I hate about jock itch? And I said, where in the hell is he going with this? And so we got to be friends, and I would always, I think I went there once a week or so, and he started inviting me to lunch down in the commissary, which is down in the basement. And
sure.
I actually had lunch with Mr. Hubbard a few times, and we became really good friends. And we would often talk about you. And finally, one day I said, Moon, if you've never met him, why don't we just go to lunch? And he's like, you think Tom would go to lunch with me? I said, dude, he's a pretty normal person, actually, and I'm sure you guys would have a lot to talk about. Well, I sent Kevin a picture from that, and I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, pre-COVID for sure. And we went to Layla, and I don't know if you remember, Tom, but that lunch lasted about 3 hours.
I do remember that, yes.
We had to get ready for dinner service. And I was a fly on the wall listening to all the great radio stories you two guys told. And one of the things that's weird, and maybe it isn't, and I've noticed this about all professional radio personalities, they seem to have memorized the call signs for every radio station in the United States of America. And
I know.
Afternoon drive people are. It's weird.
It is very weird. Well, Dad does that all the time. It's like, oh, yeah, KNOT, yeah, over in Omaha, Nebraska. It's like, how the hell do you know that?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, that was always like that in the newspaper business. You know, when I was a journalist, I could probably, people could throw out any city of the top 200 cities in the country, and I could tell you what the name of the newspaper was there. So it's a thing, you just get into it.
It's a click, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it is. But he was such an amazingly positive person. Because when I knew him, he was sick. I think he came down with MS in the early 2000s or something like that, and I think he had cancer as well. And last fall, when things in my world kind of came to a screeching halt, he's the guy calling me, checking in to see how I'm doing. I'm like, dude, you're the guy in the wheelchair.
I know.
Don't worry about me. I'm going to be fine. And the last time we did something with he and Cynthia, we went to see Daryl Hall. It was terrible. And Todd Rundgren, who was great out at Mystic. I think that was maybe August or September. That's the last time we saw Cynthia. And I'm going to have to give her a call later today. I'm sure she's just getting carpet bombed with people trying to connect with her.
Was Moon one of those guys who, who worked at 14 radio stations before he finally hit the big time?
I'll tell you my favorite Moon radio story, because he grew up in some little town in western Nebraska, and it's just, it's right next to bumfuck Egypt, I think. Mm-hmm. And he got a job at 16 or 17 at the local radio station.
Right. Yeah. I love those
You'll
stories.
find it hard to believe, but Larry was kind of into marijuana in those days, and probably up till the day he died. And one of his jobs was he had to go down and read the police blotter and do the crime report segment. So he's reading the crime report segment, and he says, "And our final story, Larry Moon Thompson was arrested for possessing 1 pound of marijuana." This is Larry Moon Thompson signing off. The station owner got so mad at him, he drove right down and fired him on the spot.
Oh, God.
Hired him back a few years later. But I think he did Denver and Houston were his two big markets before he came here. I don't think he moved around that much, but I guess I don't know for sure. It's just an instinct.
Dougie, one of the things Hutch and I burst into tears live on the show this morning, which was actually it really was helpful that happened, because you're talking about somebody you admired. The man was a supreme talent. If people didn't know how good Moon was on the radio, then you really don't know much about radio. He was one of the best I've ever heard. I met Hutch on the bus going to the state fair last year. Could not have been, I will say this. It just reminded me, because we're not going to have Moon forever. Every time I talked to him in the last several months, he sounded like he was a little bit worse off than the last time I had talked to him. So we all knew it was coming, but still when I looked this morning, I saw that Hutch sent a message that Moon had died. It's very, very difficult, because the guy loved doing radio. He was phenomenal at doing radio. Lovely wife. The guy, he had it all, and then you find out all of a sudden that you're sick and you aren't going to make it. It was very sad, no doubt.
I talked about this a little bit because I heard him when he was on. Moon, it was right before Christmas. I got to do a fill-in show. Stacy was on vacation or something like that. So they did the bro show, and Sarah and I were driving around and like, hey, Moon's going to be on. Let's listen to the show, because it's not our style of music. We don't listen to that show often, but our friend was on. So they play a tune, and in the background, Hutch and Moon are talking to each other, not realizing that they're on the air.
Oh, God.
And he's talking about when Cynthia's out of town, he likes to put on her underwear and stuff. It was a total bit, but it was just like, you're such a maniac.
So he did know he was on the air and did it anyway.
Yeah,
I love that.
It was all set up, because I talked to him, I think, the day later. I said, that was so much fun. He goes, that was the most fun I've had in years, and blah, blah, blah. I said, was that underwear bit staged? He goes, yeah, it was all.
Well, you could tell. Doug, what was it? What was that golf course we had the very first time we got together for dinner? You, your family.
Oh, live, yeah. Is it Crystal Lake? It's out in Burnsville.
Yeah, Crystal Lake. Yep, there you go.
That was really funny, because one of my
can you see my watch?
People was out there with it was one of his teachers. There's like 3 women, and they were just totally shit-faced. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
And they're like, "Are you Moon?" And they didn't even recognize you. I thought that was really funny.
I just got an alert to my watch. I get alerts on my watch. National news, man. Radio legend dies. It's national news. And it should be national news, because he was a legend.
Well, I don't know if we tracked this, but it doesn't really matter when, October or whatever, last fall, he put his own celebration of life service out. All the music he wanted, blah, 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 blah. And a bunch of stations picked it up as if he'd already died. And it's like, no.
Yeah, let's not do that. Another thing about that is, and Galfano, you'll understand this, that once in a while you look at this as a signal from God. This is where my career started. As an 18-year-old boy, I started at Hubbard Broadcasting. And I've been back here it'll be a year on February 24th. This is where I belong. I mean, I'm glad that I was working for the Hubbards when Moon died, because we all knew he wasn't going to live much longer.
Yeah.
But then the day he died, the fact that I'm sitting on the air doing a show at Hubbard where my career began and where my career will end, but I'm back home, man. It's just all of a sudden I just got this feeling I'm back to where I belong. I'm back home. Even though I did 37 years of morning radio, this is always where I belonged anyway.
But KSTP, the legends, it seems like the legends all worked there. I'm thinking
Steve
about
Cannon.
Yep, and I'm thinking about Moon. I'm thinking about you. They do have a knack for figuring out talent.
I would agree with
I
that.
have one request, if there is a higher power listening in. So in the last month, we lost 2 of the nicest people in radio that I've ever known, Pat and now Larry.
Yes.
One of the nasty ones, like maybe Ray Eric needs a car accident.
Poor Ray.
Oh, well.
I love Ray.
You're saying there's going to be a third one, is what you're saying.
Well, at our age, Mike, it's more than 30.
That's what I'm thinking. It's been a rough year.
And
It
the
has.
thing is, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
No question about it. But Doug, I'm really, really happy that you reached out and said you need to meet Moon. You guys would get along really well. I would never have met him if it weren't for you.
He was so excited to meet you, and he was honestly shocked. He goes, I called him up. I said, "Yeah, Tom says Saturday at 2 is good if that works." And he goes, "Really? He's going to be there? He wants to talk to me." I said, "Dude, you guys are both titans in the industry. Why wouldn't he want to talk to you?"
Right. And then, like, Gelfand doesn't want to talk to me. He just got up and stormed out of the studio.
Well, it's probably eating donuts again. That's bad for him.
Tevin, does he have to poop or something?
No, he's getting some water. He was coughing a little bit.
But no.
For the break, huh, Mike? Okay, thanks, bud.
Oh, he's back now. He came back. He's going to put his headphones on as we speak. There he goes. He's got his headphones on again.
Yeah. I was sipping some coffee, and what do we used to say? Went down the wrong tube or something?
Oh, God, you don't want that.
No.
No doubt about it. But yeah, if we now could have a little break from our friends dying, that would be great. Because my God, starting with Andy Fisher, my son Andrew was named after Andy Fisher, and he died. And boy, about 15 people died in the last year. For Christ's sake, can we put the brakes on?
Yeah, we need a break, I think, for sure.
I'm really going to miss his smart-ass attitude. Moon was one of the nicest, smartest people I've ever met, and he had a side to him. He was a very, very funny guy, no question about it. Moon, will miss you. If there is a heaven, I know you're in that spot, and I thank you so much, Doug Sprinthal, for introducing me to Moon, because I loved that guy. He was just great.
Yeah, me too. And like everybody that knows him, it wasn't a total shock because he's just had terrible health issues. And
right.
Yeah.
That's what made, because I never really knew him when he was healthy, and that's what it was so appealing to me. It's like, this guy's got, the worst luck in the world, and he's like the most positive, happy person I actually know.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I've met Stacy. I don't know her really well. But Hutch and Stacy are doing a great job doing afternoons. They're going to do a special tribute to him today, sometime between 2 and 7 o'clock. That Hutch and Stacy are going to do a tribute to.
She's going to be just a puddle today.
Oh God, yes, no question about it. So, all right. Well, what do you got planned for the rest of your day, Dougie?
Well, well, why don't I call you later when we're off the air?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So things are going well, though.
Well, I'm getting there. I'm getting closer to being a taxpayer again, hopefully. But, man, this has been not working. The only thing worse than having a job is not having a job. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, I understand that. There's no question about it. But, Dougie, thank you, and all my love to you. Thank you so much for being the guy who introduced me to one of my favorite people. I'm going to miss Moon like there's no tomorrow. I mean, Andy, you got to know Moon well, too.
Yeah, he was on the show several times.
He was indeed. So, Dougie, I owe it all to you. I owe all my happiness to you.
Oh, boy. So Catherine's not on the show today?
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Catherine didn't make the cut today.
I'll see you guys later. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Dougie. Doug Sprinthal, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, Doug several years ago said, Tom, Moon? I said, yeah, of course I know. I listen to Moon all the time. And he goes, well, he wants to meet you. And I said, oh, God, that'd be great. Second we sat down, we schmoozed, became friends immediately, and it was devastating when I heard that Hutch had announced that he had died. So God bless you, Moon. If there's a heaven, I know you're in heaven. So that's good, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Gelfand, cheer me up. Let's go.
Well,
it was the first time for everything, I suppose.
Yeah.
What, Gelfand cheering someone up?
Well, when I walked in, Tevin said, I said, how's it going? He said, well, it's kind of mixed because Moon died. I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And he said, but Tom's in a pretty good mood. And I said, well, I'll put an end to that.
Yeah, he'll drive that right out. There's no question. I was in a good mood, and I'm still in a good mood because I knew that Moon was not going to live a full life, but he did live to be 65. What's pretty good.
It's still not terrible.
Pretty good for as severe as that disease was.
Man,
I'm very happy for him.
He had all sorts of health issues, yeah.
He did. No question about it. So any happy news that you guys been digging up since we found this out? Listen to that response. Like, no, we didn't find any happy news at all.
Come on.
Yeah.
Well, the lead story in the Star Tribune, tribes accused of predatory lending and may have been fleeced as well. That's the top story in the Star Tribune.
Oh, yeah, that's like an internet thing, right?
Oh, is that what it is? I don't know. I didn't read it.
I think it's the lending. I think this tribe in particular is in Montana. And
okay.
So they figured out a way to, not that it would be that tough, but, they decided that they would loan money to people via the internet. And turns out the terms weren't very favorable to the consumer.
No, really? A lender?
Yeah, lender too, yeah. What could go wrong, right?
Oh, my God. The rates, according to the Star Tribune, were between 474 and 795%.
Jesus
What?
Christ.
That's
Generally, people with those kind of rates, they're the ones who break your kneecap if you don't.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a question. If I borrow $100 from you, I have to pay back $865?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of money you borrow before you disappear forever.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. I suppose on tribal land they can set their own rates, can't
Yeah,
they?
no usury laws.
Yeah.
No usury laws, right, exactly. So
I remember seeing down here, actually, we saw an ad on TV, like, God, it has to have been 20 years ago. There was like a lending service, a tribal lending service down here, and the rates were some astronomical number. And I remember the like tagline or something like that was, the rates may be high, but when you need money, it's, your only option. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they got one person in Sauk Rapids that took out a $500 loan and had to pay back $2,244. Another person took out a $650 loan and had to pay, looks like just under $1,400 in interest.
Well, the thing about that business is they don't want people to pay back on time.
No, they want you to pay back interest forever.
Yeah.
I suppose that is true. Now, tribes do not pay federal or state taxes, correct? It's their tribal land. They're not part of the United States, actually, are they? I mean, they're included in the territory, but that's about it.
Yes, they do. Well, let's see. Individual people pay federal income tax.
Oh, they do? I didn't know that.
The exception is when they receive income directly from a treaty or trust resource. So it's like if they have a treaty going on that says, they're allowed to fish on this lake.
Right.
And they make their money selling that fish, then that's not taxed.
But luckily, the government can break the treaty without any punishment at all, as it has over the course of 200 years.
Right.
I mean, there was the thing called genocide, right?
There was a thing called genocide.
So maybe they're just lashing back. I don't know.
I don't know either. Why do people have to be so odd? I just don't. First of all, if somebody said to you, we charge 700% interest, I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, for real.
Absolutely.
And you could never pay. If you need $500 that badly, you're never going to be able to pay off that interest.
No.
Because you're clearly not in a position where you're making enough money to pay that off.
Yeah, well, there was that payday loan scandal with the race car driver Scott Tucker back in the day, where he had all of kind of similar, where you're charging people outrageous interest, but then it was if you didn't pay the whole thing back, like within like a week, then it added an additional late charge for every payment you made that didn't pay the whole thing off, and so he was stealing tons of money from people.
And I'd like to say, just ironically, because I want to make that clear. Shouldn't it be enough for the Indians that they get to sell cigarettes cheaply?
That's a big hit.
It's a big source of income, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they're still pissed off about their land being stolen from them.
Is it true that a pack of cigarettes, because I'm telling you the truth, I stopped smoking cigarettes when I was, I believe, 19.
Yeah.
I smoked sometime I was like 11 to 19.
I smoked a little, and then when I was 18, I could buy the cigarettes, legally. And I said, well, this isn't fun anymore.
No, that's true. And I will never forget this. Remember Lark cigarettes?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Well, I smoked Lark cigarettes, and a pack of Lark cigarettes was 31 cents.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
31. How much is a pack of cigarettes now? Somebody told me they're over $10 a pack now.
Yeah, it looks like they're just $10.50 in Minnesota.
Oh my God!
$10.50?
$11 in Massachusetts. Connecticut's almost $12.
Jesus,
that's a little more than inflation would suggest.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Well,
with you.
that's $400 or $4,000 a year for a pack of cigarettes a day.
And that's not counting the artificial lung you have to buy.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, yes, there is
Imagine that expense, no question.
But that apparently, that taxation seems to have worked in many ways, because, boy, I'll tell you, when we were smoking at the age of 18, there were a lot of people with us.
Oh, God, yes.
Now it's hard to find someone who smokes.
11.5% of adults currently smoke.
What's funny about that, Mike, I was just commenting on that yesterday because I saw a guy standing on the street corner smoking. And I just never, ever see that anymore. You see that all the time.
Sometimes you see people huddling under a doorway
in
the middle of winter, surreptitiously inhaling. It's not a glamorous sight.
Yeah, smoking has been steadily decreasing for very many years.
It's horrible for you.
So, hey, but e-cigs are up, so that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
But e-cigs are just as bad as smoking a cigarette, aren't they?
Yeah, it depends on who you ask. I don't believe they are. I mean, unless you're... Well, see, that's the thing. It's like people will be like, oh, yeah, kids are buying, THC-infused vape juice from some back alley dealer in China. It's like, well, yeah, you put that in your lungs, of course something bad's going to happen.
I would think so, yes.
But that's like, that's like saying, oh, I drank water out of a puddle on the street and I got sick, therefore water's bad for you.
It's the water's fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Smoking can actually be okay.
Well, no, smoking is...
Well, vaping, let's say.
It can be like okay in the sense that any nicotine is okay for you. It's like, the jury's kind of still out on whether nicotine is something you should have in your body at all. But the odds are it's not going to do anything beyond that. Whereas smoking, any amount of smoking is going to be bad for you, no matter what you're smoking, nicotine or anything.
I think vaping has had its day. It's not that people aren't vaping, but it's just not a big thing.
Right.
I wonder, actually. Let's see.
I'll say I think it's probably more popular now than it's ever been. Like you see people all the time with the pens and smoking in public as they're walking around and stuff.
Oh yeah, they're pretty popular right now.
Oh really?
High schoolers 2011 went from 2% to 20% today with e-cigs. But cigarettes went from 16 to 8. So hey, I mean, you take what you can get.
And that 2% was probably at a time when most people weren't even aware of them.
In 2011, that was a while ago. Yeah, that was like the very beginning. I think.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So that's not surprising.
So you're vaping to get a buzz, correct?
Arguably, yes.
Okay, yeah. So why don't you just buy the beverages that have THC in them, and then you don't have to inhale vape or smoke or anything?
Well, I mean, most vaping is nicotine.
Oh, it's nicotine. Oh, it's
nearly all vaping is nicotine. Yeah, it's a replacement for cigarettes.
Yeah, it was originally created as a mechanism to help you quit smoking.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Okay, I got to run something by you because there are 4 of us here. This is in the Star Tribune this morning. I've not looked at the article yet. Yes, Minnesota should have a Michelin guide, and these 4 restaurants would likely get stars. Do you each have one? Because I do have one that I would say, yes, should get a star. Do you have a restaurant that should get a Michelin star?
I'd say the Crossroads Deli or Cecil's, yeah.
Or you've got to be a deli.
They're both probably on that list, right?
Well, they should be, I would imagine, yes.
How about the Wendy's near University and Snelling?
Oh, you guys are such smart asses. Way to go. Tevin, are you going to be normal? Or are you going to be a wise guy like Andy
I feel like I almost have to be a smart ass, but I would assume that it's going to be places like Manny's or...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Murray's.
Right.
Like a Bar La Grassa.
Well, that I understand,
yeah.
But...
Okay. Well, you ready? I'm gonna reveal now the 4 restaurants would likely get stars according to the Star Tribune. Okay. So I got to click on the story, which I haven't done yet. It's coming up. Restaurant critic John Chang has dined at hundreds of Michelin starred restaurants, eateries they call them, in dozens of cities around the world. Now he's weighing in on our local dining scene. So here we go. We're scrolling down. There's a lot of schmoozing going. I would read this normally, but it's about 7 paragraphs long, so I don't want to get that far into it. Okay, so where are we going with the Demi owner Gavin Kaysen visited with guests shortly after the restaurant opened. So is he saying they should have two stars, excellent cooking, worth a deed? Well, that says only 2 stars, not 4 stars. 1 star, high quality cooking, worth a stop. I don't understand this.
So you get a star and you're good. You don't need to have 4.
Oh, so 1 star is a good thing. Chef Alex Roberts opened his Minneapolis restaurant, Alma, in 1999. Alma is a good restaurant. So far, so good, I would say. Mm-hmm. Kaiseki Furukawa, I've not even heard of that. You guys know anything about that?
What? Is that the name of the restaurant?
Kaiseki Furukawa, yeah.
Oh, no.
Only a few Japanese restaurants in the Twin Cities, but that doesn't mean there can't be an extraordinary one. Furukawa apparently is the chef's name. So, yeah, I don't know anything about that. It's 33 First Avenue north of Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty close to where I used to live, actually.
Oh, yeah, right there. Okay.
I think.
Marielle.
Let me look at this. Yeah, it's pretty close to the North Loop, actually. It's over by the Hennepin Avenue Bridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically there were a bunch of restaurants I've never even heard of.
That sounds about right.
So are they trying to make a point here that steakhouses shouldn't even be considered any longer? Because neither Manny's nor Murray's was on the list.
Well, that's why I kind of reeled in disgust when of course, then again, Tevin grew up in Osceola, so he doesn't know anything about fine cooking.
He has no clue what the hell's going on. Osceola, Wisconsin,
but I kind of figured that you had to do something a little more exotic than steak.
Well, and it had to be multinational too.
Yeah.
It couldn't just be like, honky American food. It had to include all of that great stuff.
Good Japanese restaurants are not that easy to find.
No, you're right.
They are extremely rare, actually.
Used to be so many of them. It seemed like there were more of them back in the day than there are now. I always, when I discovered the Tokyo restaurant in Dinkytown.
Tokyo was wonderful.
Yeah, and we used to go to the Tokyo. In theory, we weren't supposed to go into Dinkytown when I went to University High School, but there were 8 restaurants there. I couldn't resist.
Right.
I think between like 6th grade and then 7th grade, when I got to University High School, I think I must have gained 4 pounds. I ate so much.
4 whole pounds.
Yeah, I tell you, I almost thought about going on a diet. But
most people do that in a day,
The Tokyo though was like we're talking about 1965 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you got a really good meal there with enough calories, because there was a lot of rice, of course. I think that was like 95 cents or something. It was just obscenely cheap.
That was a wonderful thing. I think Tokyo got pissed off at me about something. Or was that I can't remember who it was. They were pissed off at me to the point where they actually put little signs on their tables, "Do not listen to Tom Barnard on KQRS." I don't even know why they were so pissed off at me.
Well, I did once write a restaurant review around the university for the Minnesota Daily, and I gave the Tokyo 4 stars, and I said that I never heard from them about this. But I did say I would give them 5 stars, except for the fact that I once found a cockroach in my katsudon.
Oh, God, you said that?
Yeah.
Was it true?
Yes, it was true.
Oh, if it was true, then, well, I'm glad I wasn't there. That's all I have to say. I'm glad I didn't see a cockroach in your chow.
Yeah, it just kind of came crawling out of there, and I my stomach kind of came crawling with it.
It was alive still?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
I suppose I should have mentioned that.
It was still alive?
I buried the lead. I can't believe I did that.
You did. You buried the lead. Why did you do that, Gelfand?
I don't know. It's but I did keep going back there. I gave it a kind of a period where I was repulsed, and it's probably about 3 months before I went there again. I couldn't stay away. It was just so good.
Yeah, I understand. If a restaurant's good, a restaurant's good. There's no question about that. No question at all about that. Oh, my God. Did you see that Jon Stewart is going back to The Daily Show, but he's only going to do it on Monday nights? What the hell is that?
Well, I think he's going back because he can't resist talking about the election.
Yeah, for real.
That's what it is, I'm sure.
And I know one thing. I will be very happy when he's back.
You liked Jon Stewart?
Well, that was a great show. And he had so many, one of the things that made that show so great was they had all these interns, who were working for free, and every one of them was like, going through 100 hours of videotape every day. Mm-hmm. And they came up with great stuff.
Well, that's interesting that he just wants to do it one day a week, which I suppose I could understand. Mm-hmm. He did rather well in his career. I remember we used to have him on the queue in the mornings like 35 years ago, and nobody knew who he was.
Yeah.
I remember that. It was a long, long time ago. I haven't talked to him since, because once he blew up, he never came back. Mm-hmm. He's one of those kind of guys. So, I don't know. I always kind of liked Jon Stewart, but he got very, very political, though, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But, I mean, who didn't?
Yeah. It was easy money. That's for sure.
That is basically true, but I just what I would like to see again, and we kind of started the show with this, is let's kind of move toward the middle and try to get along instead of making other people money by hating one another. What do you say?
I don't know. That hate money sure spends well.
Oh, that hate money's big time too. That hate money is big time.
Yeah, most of the money out there is hate money.
It is. You're absolutely right.
Look at it this way: who is the richest man in the world?
Elon Musk, or is it Jeff Bezos?
I think it may not be Elon Musk because, of course, the Tesla stock keeps going down.
Right.
But I was thinking mostly about Elon Musk. When I think about hate, I think about Elon Musk. Although I will say this, even though he's on record as being anti-Semite, he considers himself. He said this. You probably missed this, but like about a week or two ago, he said that he was an aspirational Jew.
Wait a second. He said he hated Jews, and then he says he's an aspirational Jew?
He has endorsed on X anti-Semitic comments. Which
he has? Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, especially because, there were comments about how it was basically all about how, because of the Jews, our blood is being poisoned, that kind of thing.
Well, I've said that about you many times,
right,
Gelfand.
Right.
You poison
my blood.
We're
supposed to all be rich, so I'm driving a 25-year-old car if I even drive. I think that's all I really need to say about that. But no, he said he was an aspirational Jew, and nobody that I know of knows what the hell he meant by it.
I don't know what the hell that means.
No,
he wants to mean you want to be a Jew.
I think what it means is he was probably once again mixing mescaline with ketamine.
You think that's what it is?
I think those two don't mix well.
I still will never
come up with stuff like I'm an aspirational Jew. Look, you don't have to aspire to be a Jew. It's not an ethnicity. It's a religion. Mm-hmm. So if you really want to be Jew, you can be Jewish.
Remember that time you and I was driving in my car, and I'm almost certain it was you, 99% certain it was you, and we were listening to the morning show on WCCO, and I can't remember the guy's name. He was not it was not Boone or Erickson. It was not one of those two. It was somebody else on the show, and he was bragging about what a great deal that he got on something. And the host said, well, how did that happen? And he said, and I quote, I Jewed him down.
Oh, dear.
You remember that? You were in the car with me.
Yeah. The first time, and I remember the guy, fittingly, the guy did the farm reports. Remember that?
Yeah, that's right. He was the farm reporter.
So
You're
he
right.
was right in the middle of pork bellies.
It was the farm reporter. I can't remember his name, though.
I can. I think.
Can you really?
Well, it was not the legendary Maynard Spees.
No, it was not Maynard Spees.
The guy who came on after him, and the guy really was. I think I don't think he's one of those guys who he grew up in a farm town,
North Dakota. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess he just didn't know that you really weren't supposed to say that. First time I ever heard anyone say that it was a life insurance salesman.
There you go.
For years, I would say gyp, like you gypped me.
Oh, gypsy. Yeah.
I didn't know until I was like 20 years old that was a derogatory term for gypsy.
Yeah, a gyp.
I thought it was just a word, gyp.
Yeah.
It's all true.
So, I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, you grow into it. By the time you got old enough to realize what you were saying, you didn't say it anymore.
Yep, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. So it all works. God, I wish I could remember that guy. I can hear that guy's voice in my head, but I cannot remember his name.
Yeah, no, if you said it, I'd know it instantly.
Was it Chuck something? Chuck? I don't remember. Doesn't matter.
It was a one-syllable last name. For some reason, I remembered that, but I don't remember the name.
Buck.
Yeah, Chuck Buck. That was his name. Chuck Buck.
He absolutely said that.
He did. Oh, I was in the car with you when he said it. I'm driving along, and I was like, really? You really think that's a good idea?
I think that's the first time I experienced whiplash.
That might have been true. Your head did snap back. Yeah. That's very, very true. I don't know what the hell. It all works out in the end. What's so interesting is trying to do shows after you've lost a friend You know, I'm not going to get back on that, but it's so weird because everything I look at now, I'm looking at, there's a story out of Duluth and one out of St. Cloud, and I go, oh God, Moon died. It keeps popping in your head, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like if I'm watching a football game, a Vikings game, and the phone rings, instantly I believe it's my friend Bobby Barghini.
Oh, Barghini was another great guy.
He always called me during games, you know.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. And he was the only call I would take, like, you know, in the middle of the Vikings game. Of course,
yeah, I can understand that.
On a given day, he was the only person who did call me, so it wasn't that tough. But no, yeah, and it's still that I've just got that instinct. You know, he died on December 6th, more than a year ago, and I still there's something, you know, my brain just can't quite come to terms with it.
What did he die of?
Well,
you don't have to tell me if you don't want to.
No, he probably died of a blood clot.
Oh, okay.
He'd had knee surgery, like, you know, a couple of days earlier.
One of the nicest guys I ever met and a phenomenal athlete. You knew that, didn't you?
Oh yeah, no, he well, of course, he'd been a very good hockey player.
Yep.
And he was a halfback.
Baseball player.
And he played baseball. I'll tell you this much: basketball and tennis, no.
No, basketball and tennis, no. I think you're absolutely right.
Because he wanted to throw the ball off the backboard as hard as he could.
That was Barghini, exactly.
And he used to check me when we played.
Such a good guy.
Yeah, great guy.
I wonder why the hell that's all about. Like, you know, you get to the Barghinis and the Moons of the world, and you go, God, I wish that other guy would have died, not those two.
I mean, it's like if someone had to die, if you could just pick someone.
Exactly.
It wouldn't be that. And then someone you really loathe dies, and it's not as good as you think it's going to be.
It's very final. There's no question about that. You often, you know, because when I was a kid growing up Catholic for, I suppose, till I was in about second or third grade, I believed that, you know, all the teachings and all that stuff. So if you died, I don't know. I'm not one of those people who go, there's no such thing as this, there's no such thing as that, or there is this, or there is that. I don't know. We'll see what the deal is. Yeah. If you die and you're dead, you're not going to know it anyway if there's nothing.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why Barghini, why everyone loved him, because, you know, he did identify as a Catholic Jew.
A Catholic Jew. It's hard to do.
Born Catholic, married a Jewish woman.
Yeah, he did.
And he had no preference for either religion.
No, I think that's true. Well, it's kind of like my situation, that if you have beliefs that don't denigrate other people and drive them into the ground, then I'm happy for you. If your faith is based on making your life better and making your family happier, I'm happy for you. But if it's based on judging other people, I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, well, that's why religion can be such a dangerous weapon, because
it can.
People make of it what they want to.
You are correct about that. I just don't use it. Well, again, we use it in our politics right now to hurt other people. That's exactly what we're talking about. If we could get away from harming other people, that would be really, really nice. Ever going to happen?
Well, probably not we won't live to see it. That's for sure.
No, we probably won't live to see it. Why the opposite side has to be the devil and horrible and the worst people, and oh my God, they're just horrible. Settle down, for Christ's sake. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I don't see either Biden or Trump as a horrible person. They're probably not my kind of people. I think they both are money grubbers. I don't think there's any question about that. Money, money, money. It's very, very important in both families. So, you know, we'll see how it all works out.
But it is hard for them, both of them now, I would say, to really clutch money, because after all, their hands are shaking all the time. Because
of their age?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you're saying. So what? Trump is 77. They keep saying he's 80, but he's not. He's 77.
He's 78, I think. I think he just didn't he?
Did he just turn 80? 78 now.
And he is 77 until June 14th.
Oh, okay. So
he's about to be 78.
Yeah.
More or less.
What's Biden? Is he 81?
I believe so. I think that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Biden is, yes, 81.
So how did we get here? We have an 81-year-old and a 77, almost 78-year-old. He would be 78 by the time of the election. Look, I got nothing against people in their late 70s, 80s, whatever.
No.
But should they be running a government? I don't know. Should they be?
Not ideally, that's for sure.
Yeah, right, exactly. So how did we get here?
It's because old people vote.
Well, that's a good point, because a lot of young people probably do not vote, do they?
No. And
Well,
old people are going to vote for people who are more like them.
Yeah.
And those people are going to be older by nature.
I suppose
I
that's
think
true.
I think it's you know, I mean, we talk about this all the time, but it is a lot about the money because
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that too.
as long as the donors are satisfied, as long as they're getting their money's worth, they're going to keep donating to that person.
Yeah, true. But let me ask you a question. So you got all this money, you're running for president, and there are millions and millions of dollars, and if you don't win, you still get to keep that money?
Well, you spent it on your campaign. It's gone. So.
I bet you most of it's not gone. They might be telling you it's gone, but is it really gone?
Oh, well, like I said the other day, yeah, it's, 2% here for miscellaneous expenses,
Right.
3%
Right.
here for that sort of thing.
But that is a weird thing, like people like Amy Klobuchar, and I know you like her, and I don't dislike her. But she's not my favorite either. But
Right.
so she's running for Senate, not this year, but when she runs for the Senate, she gets a lot of money, right? But
Oh,
she's
God,
never
yeah.
really running against anyone who could possibly win.
Yeah,
No.
where's the money going?
Well,
That's
it
true.
stays with her campaign fund, but she can basically spend it, just about any way she wants to.
So here's what I think would make it more interesting, is you have to pay back the money, but only if you win.
Ooh, I like it.
The losers get to keep the money, but the winner has to pay it all back. So everyone's going to be putting up the worst campaign they possibly can
To try to lose.
to see if they can keep their money.
Well, if that was the
call.
case, I'd still be playing poker.
You just gave me a great memory, man, just because I've never met Amy Klobuchar in person. I've never met her. I've talked to her father, of course, on the phone several times. After having a few cocktails, he would call me and bitch and piss and moan and yell at me all the time about this, that, and the other thing. I never minded Jim Klobuchar, though. He was a good guy, didn't you think? I mean, when he drank, he was not.
When he was sober, he was a great guy.
Yes, when he was sober, he was a great
He
guy.
was great.
And that's why every time Amy Klobuchar runs into somebody I know, she always says, "Say hello to Tom for me." But she's never called me. I've never met her. I've never talked to her. I think that's hilarious.
Well, you could give her a ride someday as long as you're not driving a poor person's car.
I can't drive a what was that car again? That was a poor person's car?
It was a Honda Civic, as I recall.
It was a Honda Civic. She wouldn't ride in it because it was a poor person's car,
yeah.
which I think is that's kind of funny, isn't it?
I thought it was hilarious. And,
Yeah.
And my son, who worked on her campaign a little bit, he's the one who heard her say it. And I think that my son was much younger at the time, obviously. And I think that did it for any kind of naivete about politics.
Yeah, I suppose. Is she the one that was eating oatmeal with a fork because she couldn't find a spoon?
Salad. It was a salad.
Oh, it was a salad. She was eating with a knife.
She was eating it with a comb.
Oh,
A
right,
comb, that's
a
right.
comb,
It was
yeah.
a comb, that's right. I forgot. She was eating a salad with a
She
comb.
was hungry.
Well, hey, it's better than the way Ethan has learned how to eat pizza.
Well, that's true.
She will eat a salad with a comb, but she won't ride in a Honda Civic. Like,
It's a clean comb.
it's wild.
So it's her comb, so it's clean.
That's a good take, though.
And that salad never had so much sheen in its life.
Absolutely,
Silky
looking really,
smooth.
really good. So I don't know. We'll keep fighting, keep moving forward. We got an election coming up in 10 months. I mean, so how's it shaping up to you so far, Gelfand? Are you liking the people that are rising to the top?
Oh, just love them to death. Yeah. No, I mean, I as far as the last almost 4 years now, I think a lot of good things happen, but I just can't. It's hard to even picture. I'm not a young guy, but I know I'm 73, and I know that I don't have the energy, the kinetic energy, as well as the cerebral energy. I would never have enough to be president. I can still play the horses pretty well, but as far as being, in theory, you got to be you got to be a very energetic person to run.
I don't know, maybe a low energy president is what we need.
Well,
someone
low energy.
Yeah, he gets called up by a world leader and he's like, I don't feel like talking right now.
Well, maybe it was Taft because it took so long to take a bath that he'd be a good guy whenever he did talk.
I don't think
he was a big fella.
Actually got stuck in the bathtub. I think that's.
I think it might be a myth, yeah.
But he could have gotten stuck. That's the really important thing.
Well, I think what happened, he had like a custom-made bathtub.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Because he could have gotten stuck in the original one because it was small.
Right.
So people kind of conflated the two. Well, it's like, remember when we went to England and we saw like the king's bathtub?
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically like a thimble?
Oh, it was tiny.
Because everyone was 4 feet tall back then.
Back then people were really small, and that bathtub was tiny.
Yeah, one of those original 1776 era bathtubs in the White House probably would be too small for the average person these days.
Man, I could have been a power forward.
You could have been.
Yeah, for real. You would have been a towering knight back in the day.
No question about it. All right, any closing statements from you three?
Yeah, do not jokingly say you're going to blow up a plane you're on.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
What was that?
There's a kid that was 18, made a joke on Snapchat, and now potentially will have to pay $120,000 because they scrambled the jets.
Yeah, he said, I'm on my way to blow up the plane because I'm in the Taliban.
Oh, my God.
In
How is that funny?
Snapchat.
Now, that's funny.
Big at Acme.
Yep, yeah. So he's not going to be a comedian or probably on many flights in the future.
Well, that's the thing is he didn't say it publicly. He just said it to his friends. Mm-hmm. But then Snapchat sent it to the government because they spy on everything you do because of course they do.
Right,
and then so the government scrambled fighter jets, and to scramble a fighter jet costs a lot of money. Now they want him to pay that back.
The thing about it is there's no such thing as saying things privately anymore.
No, there absolutely is not.
Yeah, everybody can hear everything you're doing, can't they?
Yep.
I read a story once, and the headline was, these days everything is public. I couldn't wait to read it because I thought it said everything is pubic.
Pubic, yeah, that's a whole different argument.
But that's like good news versus bad news.
Pretty much the truth. Andy, I was thanking everybody on the morning show this morning because after we went from a 3-hour show to a 1.5-hour show, again, we did that because the KQ show was 5 hours long, so we didn't want to do a 5-hour show to introduce, the show on Hubbard. So they said, why don't we do like in the middle, we'll do a 3-hour show, we'll go to 5, 3, and then eventually go down to 1.5 hours to make it like a normal podcast. So thank you to all the people that stuck with us on that one. And then, of course, we talked about the fact, well, if you're going to go from 3 hours, 3 separate downloads to just 1.5 hours, one download, you're going to lose some downloads. And it was the exact opposite. Our downloads went up.
Wow.
Correct, Andy?
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
Doing pretty well.
You people are so loyal and so wonderful, and thank you for that. I mean, I did not expect that our numbers immediately went up, didn't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, no one had the time to listen to 4 hours of podcast a day.
Well, that's true. Now they got 2 separate, one's a 1.5 hour, and the family podcast has done better than it's ever done, hasn't it?
Yeah, family podcast is still going strong after all these years.
Even though we have people like Gelfand and Tevin on?
Yeah, no matter how much we try, we just can't tank the Barnard.
Unsinkable.
People are really forgiving.
Yeah, they really are. There's no question. Well, Michael, one more salute to Moon. Moon died yesterday. Just found out this morning from Hutch that he did. Hutch called in and started crying, made me cry, so thanks for that. But it was good for me because I do miss Larry Thompson, Moon. It was a great guy, lovely wife, just a really nice person. So just be thankful. That's how I leave it today. Yeah. When I get off this show today, I was on the morning show, then I get off this show today. All my people are still, my family are still alive, and hopefully they always will be as long as I'm alive. So a lot to be grateful for. But Moon, if you are up in heaven listening, man, I loved you. You were a great guy, just a wonderfully funny man, a nice man, and I'm going to miss you, pal. That'll do it. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Did somebody come in? I thought I heard some noise out there.